lost our live stream. We got to start it back up. There's just too much going on, I guess.
Don't try to do anything fancy.
I know, that's what happens.
I mean, seriously,
we did this earlier and it worked fine, so I don't know what the deal was, but I think the feed should be back up now. All right, so the crowd, everybody comment on the crowd. Latrell had a comment about the crowd. Everybody commented how great the crowd was. I saw that somebody posted there was 10,000 students at the game. 10,000 students. There was times when we didn't have 10,000 total fans within a mile radius of Fouts Field. And when you have 10,000 students there, that's pretty amazing.
No doubt. I mean, I cannot recall a bigger crowd at Apogee. We've had some decent showings there, but I mean, it was an awesome sight to behold. And not just that, but Evan, you know this as well as I do. A lot of times people will leave early, but it didn't seem that way. You know what I mean? It just seemed like people were going to sit there no matter what the score was because they were enjoying themselves so much. But it was just an outstanding atmosphere. And then, of course, the wrestling match afterwards just added even more to it. I thought that was pretty cool, too.
Yeah, definitely. So, Ashton, you were down there. JD were down there. Tell me what, Ashton, tell me what your thoughts were on the sideline, comparing like this year to last year. I mean, who are the guys down there that are pumping people up, getting everybody going? I mean, what was the overall feeling down there?
I think one of the highlights, in my opinion, was watching Mason walk around and talk more and be more. The guy's just different. I mean, he's got a little bit of a swagger to him now, not in a bad way at all. Not like in a Baker Mayfield douchebag kind of swagger, but like that you kind of sometimes want out of your quarterback because you know that you want a cocky, confident quarterback. Mason's confident, and he's not cocky or anything like that, but he just, he was chatting it up. I mean, he was talking a lot. I mean, he was even talking to me towards the end. And he was on the sidelines when he got pulled, to rest him, which we should have done about a drive or two earlier, in my opinion. Get him out of there when we're up. We just get him out. But I loved how he was sitting there. He was on the end of the field, and the camera caught him a couple times, like hunched over, kind of looking at the field like Latrell would do, or Coach Womack would do, or Eckler used to do back in the day, where he's right on the line. He's basically like watching the game, and Mason was doing that, and he wasn't standing back by the Gatorade, talking to backup quarterbacks and just shooting the breeze. He was really into the game and really kind of pumping everybody up. And when Cole got his 51-yard field goal, Mason was one of the first people over there to run over there and say, "Man, congrats, that's badass. Good job, career long, what the hell, all that stuff." And that's really good because you want your quarterback to have everybody's ear, and I don't think we have had a quarterback since, I think Derek Thompson that had that kind of aura around him. Not taking away from McNulty, because McNulty was a guy that would walk around and do that, but Greer definitely wasn't, and Dejan, I never heard talk. So I mean, and then we can talk about the other quarterbacks, but why do that? So I mean, Harry will want to talk about whatever DeMarcus Smith, I assume, because he's probably got a poster back there about how good that guy was. But he was the next big thing anyway.
We had some debates. We had some debates over that back in the day.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a debate, but okay, anyway.
Thanks for letting me forget about that too. You bring that up every podcast, dude.
I think we should start bringing up all the crap stuff that Ashton's brought. Just not let it die.
Let's do it. Let's do it. But no, that was one of the cool things about it. The defense was a whole on the sidelines too, which I loved. I love watching the defense kind of be a family, and there were a lot of moments where they were all talking, like 10 or 15 different guys were all in one conversation, listening to Ref or listening to Coach Brown, the two guys who were down there on the sidelines, or Coach Yellock, and that was good. It felt like there was more of a community and more of a family kind of thing. And again, when you're winning, that's going to happen. And when you're kicking somebody's ass, that's probably going to happen more often than if you're losing. But, for the first game of the season, to be able to have that togetherness against SMU, I think was pretty huge.
Note to self, go before Ashton when answering a question, because he definitely just stole all my thunder.
I know, sorry.
But no, right along the lines of what he said, it just seemed like, and I mean, I understand the score had a lot to do with that, but on North Texas' side, there was a lot of camaraderie, family-like feel, and it just seemed like to me that everybody was bought in. There was no, questioning calls, nothing like that. I mean, it was, and one thing that stood out to me was it seemed like if it was possible, Mason's took another step forward as far as being a leader on the field. I mean, he's out there. It seems like pretty much running the offense himself. I mean, he's telling people to go here. I mean, he's got the 100% grasp of the playbook. That was something that kind of stood out to me. And also, Cole's kick, Mason was one of the first ones on the field. I mean, that's something you don't usually see with the star quarterback. I mean, that was pretty. I mean, like I said, that stood out big time to me. But also to go with the fans. I mean, the fans were amazing. I mean, it seemed like from the first kickoff, the student section didn't sit down. I mean, that was something that in the years past they've kind of got disengaged, but it seemed like the whole time Saturday night, all 29,000 was on their feet.
So is it as loud y'all were both on the field. I was in the stands. It seemed, especially on that pick six, I mean, the crowd just sounded like a cannon. It was so loud. Did it seem as loud on the field as it seemed in the stands?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty loud down there. To be honest, it took me a little bit of time to kind of realize it was so loud on the sidelines that I was kind of having trouble realizing how loud it was in the stadium because the sidelines were so loud from the team. So that was kind of a cool thing to know that the team was so hype and so loud that I was having trouble hearing the crowd. But then when I started focusing on the crowd and how big it was and trying to figure out, are we breaking the record? Are we breaking a record? And looking around and trying to, I mean, when you're up 21, nothing, you can kind of look around a little bit and realize, oh, okay, my head wasn't buried in the camera as much. And it was just at one point in time in the middle of the second quarter, I looked at my audio guy and I was like, man, this is pretty freaking awesome right now. We're kicking the SMU's ass. We've got our biggest crowd ever. And from the guys, all four of us and the other, 6,000 diehard fans that have gone to every game since Apogee's opened, that was really, really, really cool to see the wing that full and see the student section like that, look behind me and see that and see no red and blue. Like this is not a record crowd because of SMU. This is a record crowd because we played SMU, so we might have had more fans come out, but it wasn't because of frickin' SMU brought the fans. Those fans suck. They don't make any drives down. They can't drive 30 minutes away. It was great.
I'm embarrassed to admit I've watched the replay 3 times now. But the thing I will say is the announcers on there make some comment like, boy, this is a great crowd, and SMU brought a great crowd too. And I was just kind of like, no, they really didn't.
No, I think what they're thinking is sometimes when you're at one school and the other school's a 3-hour drive and they show up with that kind of crowd, that's respectable. But
it looked like we were playing La Tech. It looked like we were playing La Tech over there.
It does. Or UTSA. UTSA brought more fans than that.
Well, I was just saying the red and blue. Like, I really thought I was actually watching La Tech. I mean, La Tech travels better than they do.
Yeah, they do.
It was pathetic in my opinion.
UTSA and La Tech both travel better than them, and of course Army. But we know the situation with Army. But I'll have to tell you, I think some of the times when the crowd is the loudest at North Texas game is when we've got a 3rd down or it's a 4th down, and the place gets nuts crazy because it's so loud. This game was we just walked away with it. I don't think a lot of times the crowd was just really into a 3rd down because it really didn't matter. It was still loud just because of the sheer quantity. But if it would have been a closer game and a big 3rd down, I think the place would have just been amazing. So I think that had a big piece. I know that got the players pumped up. They're riding a high. Let's talk about individual. We saw a lot of people, a lot of receivers. We had 2 quarterbacks. SMU just played with Hicks the whole time. But when you look at the rushing, you had basically 6 guys with rushing yards, 2 of them being Chambord and Fine, and names that a lot of North Texas fans wouldn't be as familiar with. Like in the past, it was a Jeff Wilson show for the most part. And Nick Smith. But let's talk about the running game, and we still managed to get 103 yards.
Yeah, a lot of people on the board were saying the running game was a concern. I didn't feel that way, especially after watching the replays. I think we took what they gave us, okay? And there were some nice runs. I mean, Nick Smith had that one run around the, at the corner of the end zone. Easily showed that he can be a big back that can run, between the tackles. I don't have any concerns like some do about the running game. I just feel like SMU was committed to stopping the run as part of their game plan, so we had to take what they would give us.
Yeah, I think that I wasn't concerned about the running game after the game. I think we just had some first game miscommunications on the O-line, and they were working those out on the sidelines a lot. I heard a lot of conversations about, hey, on this audible we need to do this. We were doing this, but let's do this instead. And just, and to be honest, I think one time it was hard to hear the call. And I'm not going to complain about that because that means that our crowd was being really loud. And, you always want to do this, we're in the red zone or whatever. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, fans be quiet because that's stupid. That was when you're playing your arch rival, a team that you hate, you want your fans to be as loud as hell. And so I chalk a lot of that up to first game stuff. I think that Nick Smith missed a few spots where he could have had better runs. And I think that he just missed a couple spots, but that's correctable. That's easy. Easily looked good. I talked about him last week on the podcast. I think that he's a guy that I'm actually pretty excited to see this year. He, like Harry said, he's a bigger back. He's taller. He's got a little bit more mass to him. He runs well. He's got experience. He transferred. So, I think that, I like the rotation. I like seeing a bunch of guys in there, and there was a couple times, that we would have we missed a couple moments that could have broke for big yards, and that's stuff that we'll correct. I think against Incarnate Word for sure. I
think one of the surprises I saw was Fine ended up with 19 negative yards.
Sacks.
Well, yeah, but for a mobile quarterback that's mobile as him, that was just kind of a surprising stat. All right, let's move on to the receiving corps because it was obviously a big night for the receiving corps when you had, and I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different guys catch passes.
That's what you want, man. That's freaking awesome. I mean, that's the depth of the receiver position. Dare I say the best ever at North Texas? I mean, in modern history.
No, I don't think there's any question there is right now.
I mean, what was it before? We had Carlos Harris and not really anybody else. I mean, the reality of it is there's guys out there making catches that people don't even know.
Oh, yeah. You look at this list.
Greg Brown had a couple of nice plays, and he's a redshirt freshman. And then there was that transfer, Keegan Brewer.
Brewer.
From Kansas, I think. I believe he transferred from Kansas.
Yeah, Keegan Brewer was Kansas, 3 for 41.
Who would you say before Keegan, though?
Greg Brown.
Greg White.
I'm sorry, Greg White.
Yeah. No, that's the guy that's one of the guys we talked about last week. Like, I really like Greg White.
He looks good, Ashton.
He was really, really skinny when Jordan knows this. He was really thin when he came last year, and he redshirted. And I actually spent a lot of time getting some practice shots of him last year and kind of tracking his progression. Spoiler alert, you'll probably see it on Beyond the Green at some point this year. But you can see him in week 3 of last year, and he's a good 20 pounds lighter. Like, he did a really, really good job by the end of the season and having those extra practices during the bowl and during the Conference USA Championship. You could see a different Greg White. And, dude, he's the part. He does really well in drills on special teams. In practice, he does really well at the catching the kickoff, and then 2 blockers and 2 defenders try to get to the guy with the ball. He does really well at those. I mean, he lays people out, and he's blocking for them. I mean, Greg White's a guy that I'm actually really, really high on, and I loved seeing him catch a pass, making a guy miss, and then another time I think he caught a pass and kind of bullied a guy out of his way to catch the ball and kind of bodied him up because he's a big body receiver now. He's got height. So if he could use that reach and get a little bit more mass on him, if he keeps listening to Womack, I mean, we've got a guy that in 2 years could be an absolute stud.
Yeah. And to talk about how deep we are when we've got all these guys making catches, and we didn't even see Jair Shorter, who's a freshman who's, been killing it in practice. Come Cujo, the transfer JUCO, he didn't
yeah.
didn't get any catches. Caleb Chum, tight end, didn't get any catches. So I mean, it's just it's freakishly how deep this team is at pass catchers.
The name eludes me right now, but who was the tight end that did catch the pass?
Kelvin Smith.
Kelvin Smith. Okay, yeah, he had
that was
5.
another name from last week. He's a stud.
And he had a tight end that got waved off, but after Seth said in his press conference that was a blown call.
That was a very, very bad call.
So
very bad.
I want to know. I mean, is this receiving core got so good that one of our big receivers that really stepped up last year, Michael Lawrence, what's the situation there? Didn't he have just one catch or something?
He didn't have a Michael Lawrence type of performance, and there was one drop, I believe. But again, that's a challenge. It's a blessing and a curse. And what I mean by that is, you got a lot of people to try to keep happy.
Exactly.
I mean, there's only so many balls in a game. You know what I mean?
I also attribute it to, if Michael Lawrence catches 2 balls, but we have 5 or 6 explosive plays coming from the receiving core, that means we're going downfield, and that's not Michael Lawrence's game. Michael Lawrence is Kenny Byers, he's Carlos Harris, he's a chain mover. So if Rico and Jalen Guyton have 8 catches each for $110, and Michael Lawrence has 3 for 20, well, the other part's working really, really well. And not taking anything away from Michael, but if that's a good thing.
Right.
If he's only going to have those catches, I'm fine with that, because he's a guy that's there to move chains, to dink and dunk, to slide in, to get open, to be a third option. I mean, Rico and Jalen, they're our stud receivers, and they're the guys that are going to go downfield. They're going to make big catches. They're going to score touchdowns. And, Mike's going to catch 50 balls this year. I mean, make no mistake. But if a game like Saturday happens again this week where Mike only catches 3 or 4 balls and he's got 30 yards, but we won by 40, that's not a slight on Michael Lawrence. That's a fact.
No,
we're doing really well in another area, and it's okay. And Michael, being the good kid that he is, he's fine with that. He just wants to win football games.
Yeah. So when you have 11 guys,
that goes back to the team chemistry thing, where this team is not about I got mine. It's what I mean. It has been that way in the past. I'm going to tell you. So that's a positive about the chemistry, of this team.
Yeah.
And Ashton's around the team a whole lot. I mean, he knows a lot more than I am, but I don't see a guy on the team that's like that. I mean, even Jalen and Rico, they're both, the studs, but there's games that they have one catch, and as long as the team wins, I mean, and I think that's, kind of Seth, that's the kind of guys he recruited. I mean, he may have passed on some guys that had more stars and more accolades back in the day, but he wanted team first guys, and that seems like what they're filled with.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have, not to throw them under the bus, but you don't have any Carlos Harrises. Mm-hmm. You don't have guys that are going to be like, well, I got mine, but we lost by 50. Who cares, dude? You caught 9 balls for $120 and 2 touchdowns, and we lost by 35, and you pissed a bunch of people off. So congratulations. We don't have that right now, and that's great, and that's the best part, is that guys like Jalen and guys like Rico were fine with coming out when we're up. Oh, cool, I'll sit back. And they were clapping with Cujo and Greg White, or in there and making plays. I brought up Cujo, but he didn't have a catch. But bringing up guys that when Christian Hosley got a broke through for a couple yards, Christian's the guy that he's on the leadership council, great dude. He's not going to be Nick Smith. He's not going to be Evan Johnson or Lauren Easley, but he's a team leader, and the team loves him, and he plays all 4 special teams. And he kicks ass at it. And watching the guys get happy when Hose gets some touches, that just shows you kind of what this Mean Green family that Seth's built kind of is all about. And when DeAndre Torrey got that touchdown on that kickoff return, I mean, they made a tunnel.
That was awesome.
They made a tunnel for him to run through, like when you're a little kid playing soccer. It was such a cool moment. It was so great, and you'll see it in this week's show. And it was just really, really good. And again, this is stuff you just did not see 3 years ago.
So before we get over to the defensive side of the ball, and before we get to special teams, which was a pleasant surprise, let's talk about and everybody knows these stats. Mason Fine, 40 of 50, 444 yards, 3 touchdowns. You know, you can talk about these great receivers, but I'm telling you, he was on, and he was threading the needle on several passes. When you go back, you're like, ooh, and even though you knew what the call of play was, he was on, and he was pumped up, and he was excited. And for a junior to be in that position at North Texas, I don't think it gets any better for us. I mean, honestly, we're the perennial looking for that angel quarterback to lead us. Yeah, Derek Thompson, you've got some guys that really stepped up, but we haven't seen the likes of this and I don't know how long. And so you can't help but just keep looking at those stats and looking at the accolades that he got across the country.
I was in the end zone with a friend on that one pass where, you guys know what I'm talking about, where it was like he threaded the needle. It was the most amazing play. And I was just pinching myself going, wow, this guy is so special. We've had some guys with decent arms. I mean, Derek Thompson, you know, it had some moments, but
DeMarcus
we've not
Smith.
had anyone with this kind of innate ability to sort of thread the needle and put the ball in the right place. I mean, it just seems like our receivers can do more stuff after they catch it because of the way he positions where the ball is. It's really, really fun to watch.
He's a legitimate quarterback. He's a legitimate he's got all the good intangibles that a quarterback has. And again, that's probably something we haven't seen since DT.
So if you had
move a little bit and then, you know, he threw that, sorry to cut you off real fast, Evan, but like that pass he threw to Jalen Darden that was a little high that Jalen made an amazing catch. I think that Mason was having to go over top of the defender coming at him around the front. So like Mason put it up high to think, well, you know, nobody else is going to get this ball up high because there's nobody really behind Jalen. So, and he trusts his guys. Like the fact that he's got that kind of like just savvy to do that, and that the pass to Jalen Guyton, the first touchdown, that was a dart, and he just gotten licked before that. He just gotten laid out on the ground before that. So that was just a nice. That was the kind of moments where I'm like, damn.
Well, we just have to be thankful that he is 4 inches shorter than he is. I mean, than he could have been. If he was 4 inches shorter, we wouldn't even be talking about him. 4 inches taller, because I mean he's amazing.
4 inches shorter.
Yeah, 4 inches shorter than he could still probably pull it off. I will say this, and we can talk about injuries for the rest of the team. I don't have the injury list, but you gotta. I just feel every time Mason gets hit, which is quite often, he gets up, and you're just like, come on, Rocky, come on, get up one more time. I mean, because it just feels like he's getting nailed, and he's got that slow, kind of like when he got hit during the drive against UTSA. I mean, not always that bad, but sometimes it just takes him a minute, and you're like, I feel like he's sore after a season. It's the first game, so I kind of just get nervous whenever I tell him. I'm just hoping that he holds out and the offensive line can keep him protected. He was sacked twice.
Yeah, he's the toughest, one of the toughest football players I've ever been around. And I'm not just saying that because, I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I've been able to be around a lot of different teams over the years and outside North Texas. You just don't see dudes that are that tough because he gets licked and he just gets right up. And it's I agree, Evan. I've done that 1,000 times. I'm like, oh God, he's done. Oh, that's his ribs. Oh shit, you know. And it's he gets up and he walks to the sidelines and he might slow move. And on Tuesdays I'll talk to him and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sore, but on Thursday he's
back
right as rain.
As long as he's got a full week to recover. All right, here's one other thing I want to bring up. I left this on my notes. Cole Hedlund came in. We knew he struggled a bit at Arkansas. He came in 40, 18, 41, 51. Now, that 51 didn't clear by 20 yards. I mean, it was close, but every one of those Arkansas fans were like, where was this? And you got to think that those 4 field goals, 3 over 40 yards and 1 of them is over 50, that right there, confidence, the team confidence in him, that right there is huge.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was a tough situation. to my understanding, he had a couple of muffs at Arkansas, and the fan base and the program just sort of soured on him. And that's always a tough situation to, once you lose your confidence like that, to try to build it back up. And I think it was something we were all very nervous about. And talking about, answering the bell in a big way, he looked smooth. He looked composed. That may be the best news of the game is we got a guy that can. Trevor Moore is going to be hard to ever be just as good as, but boy, Hedlund answered the bell big time against SMU.
So one of the Austin in the chat room here brought up that happy you went 4 for 4, but we should have gotten a touchdown before the first half instead of the field goal. And I think there was some clock management at the end of the first half that everybody was kind of shaking their head, wondering why it happened the way they did. Maybe the coaches were just in shock at how well things were going. But I know a lot of people had concerns with that. But it's a first game, and we dominated. So what can you say? Let's move over quickly to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we made the plays. SMU didn't have the ball long. You had several guys step up, but when you look for North Texas, who led in tackles, do you know who had the most tackles? Somebody tell me off the top of their head.
Was it EJ Agia?
No, it was actually Brandon Gardner with 7, then EJ Agia at 5, and Jamie King at 4. These aren't, and I could go down the list, but you go 7, 5, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, then ones. The defense just wasn't on the field that much. Offense was having way too much fun.
I think the defense, the key thing about the defense is we seem to have depth. We seem to have the ability to rotate guys that maybe we didn't get to do as much of last year. And, Brandon Garner had a great game. EJ had a great game. Jamie King, that's a name. I didn't expect to see him in the top 3, to be quite honest. We figured JoJo would be the guy. But the thing that I was most impressed with is that on the front 7, especially on the front line, we got good performance out of guys that we expect to, but then there were some young guys. Dayton LeBlanc is one. I believe he's 97, maybe 91. Anyway.
97 is Dion Noville.
Okay, Noville, too. Noville was another name.
We talked about him last week, yeah.
I'm telling you, man, we got some young guys that are contributing out there, and that bodes well for the future. So
and that defense, who came definitely to play and were all over the field and looked great, they held SMU to a net 4 yards rushing. When you think about a net 4 yards rushing, that's a pretty spectacular number, and that's obviously why we're ranked pretty high. And when you look at the NCAA stats, a lot of the teams that were ranked up there with us were teams that were playing lower division teams. It was like playing an Incarnate Word or something like we have to play this week. But I just think you got to be overjoyed at the performance of the defense and hope they can keep it up. Injury-wise, who did we lose? Did we get any big injuries this past week?
Murray came out, but he's still in the 2 deep this week starting, so it looks like he should be okay, good to go.
Did Murray hurt his arm?
Shoulder.
Yeah, shoulder. That's what it was.
He had ice on his shoulder, but like Jordan said, he's in the 2 deep, so I expect him to play.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm glad to see that. All right, so this week we are okay. I want to talk about it before we get into playing Incarnate Word and what we're looking at in the next few weeks. I did want to bring up a couple of game things. We had another event going on, so I couldn't get there until 5:30. Game started at 6:30. It took me 50 minutes to get from the old Sack and Save into the black parking lot.
That means it's a busy crowd.
That's crazy. I did feel like the police and the parking people, there was a lot of confusion there. But I guess, it's a good thing that we're having problems with, it's a real good thing that we're having problems with with parking and so many people trying to get in the stadium. So for those of you coming. I know there's people probably watching this, and I just want to let you know, apologize. Computer crashed, and we're back up. Just got to get the boys back in here. Please hold. Here we go. There's JD. All right, sorry guys. The computer completely just rebooted on me. I gotta turn some stuff off. I got too many things moving around here.
You got to move away from Apple to Windows, man. It's much better.
Yeah, all the software that we've purchased is all on.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
All right, where's Ashton? Because until Ashton shows up, I have the logo right over my face.
He's here because I see his logo. Ashton, can you hear us?
Yeah.
It's weird when you call in. It like takes a minute. I see your icon, but
no, I just like having the thing over Evan's face. I can turn that off if I want.
Oh, is that what it? Okay.
See?
Well, he's here.
Okay, how do I get him in there? I don't know. There it is.
There he is. Don't do that.
I'm just kidding. It was just taking a long time to boot up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm just going to have to shut down GarageBand. All right. So back to what we were talking about. Sorry. I don't even know what we were talking about. We're talking about the crowd.
I think we were talking
about
about SMU game.
Yes. Thank you, Ashton. I appreciate you explaining that. I wasn't sure. So, game experience was great. The crowd was great. How many people are we going to have this week? Obviously, SMU isn't the same draw. You're not going to get the same amount of people for Incarnate Word, which I don't want to be facetious and negative towards Incarnate Word. I remember growing up driving by it in San Antonio, but they just recently got a football team, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's they're FCS. They're in the Southland Conference, which we were in many years ago, with Stephen F. Austin and Sam Houston and those teams. I will say this: the quarterback they have is no slouch. His name is John Copeland, and he played at Liberty Christian. And funny thing that was posted on the board. Do you guys know that Kenneth Copeland, the big preacher that's got all the TV shows and stuff? This kid's a grandson of Kenneth Copeland. Really? But anyway, he had 328 yards and one touchdown. He was 17 for 36 in their game against New Mexico. They lost to New Mexico 62-30. But that being said, the guy can put up some stats. So I don't think this will be necessarily a walk in the park.
Well, yeah, you hope that we could win this game, or there's going to be some big problems. It would be nice to be 2-0. So they've got a good quarterback. Who did they play last week? I apologize if you said it.
New Mexico.
Okay. So they played New Mexico. Oh, that's right. I did see that. So they're looking pretty good. It's obviously a team we should be able to win. Do you think we're going to see anything different the way we come out against our Incarnate Word versus how we came out against SMU as far as the game plan?
Jordan, go ahead.
I think we'll just stick to the game plan as usual. That's one thing Seth seems like he's done a good job of, is the team doesn't come out flat against, or they don't overlook players or teams that we should beat, like last year with Lamar, and they came out all guns firing. I do have one bold prediction, though. I think that Incarnate Word will bring as many fans as SMU did last week. So
that's not saying much.
No, SMU's in a hurt position. Well,
But
we'll
I
have
mean,
to see.
I watched the New Mexico Incarnate Word game, and the first drive, if you'd have watched it, you'd have said, "Whoa,
Where
we may be in."
was that on
It's
TV?
it's on ESPN. You can watch the replay.
Wow.
It was on ESPN three.
All right.
But yeah, the
Ricky
first
Williams
drive,
used to coach there.
Oh, Ricky Williams.
Yeah, he used to coach there before he
didn't
went
know
to
that.
Longhorn Network.
Hmm.
He stopped
So-
smoking pot.
Let's talk. Let's talk a bit before we talk about getting into the other around the conference here. JD, you were obviously at the game, and you're a little more in tune with the recruiting situation than a lot. We've got a full class really already committed. It's kind of amazing, but I imagine we had some recruits at the game Saturday, and you got to think that they felt that was pretty good atmosphere compared to what they're going to see at some other schools. Did you see anything that was surprised you, or did you see a lot of recruits there?
No, just a little update that we are the number one team according to 24/7 in Conference USA recruiting. I seen several guys there. Dorian Morris, who just committed today. We've actually got 2 new commits since the game. One of them, I saw him at the game. We had a couple guys that didn't show up that were supposed to. Things came up. They're going to come to later games. But, every recruit I've talked to and seen stuff about, they said it was an atmosphere like no other. I've talked to high school coaches that came, past coaching staff, past recruiting staff, and they said the atmosphere, the way they were handled, the experience was light years ahead of where it was last year, just for North Texas. They said it was, top notch. And, we're virtually full. I heard we had 21 spots, and we're sitting at 20 commits right now. We're DT 5th, national ranking. So, it's a pretty special class so far, but I think the job now is just to try to hang on to them.
Excellent. That's good to hear. So, talking about, we're obviously going against recruits from other schools in our conference. Were there any surprises that you saw on the schedule from the I'm not on the schedule, but of the teams that we played the teams in our conference last week? Like UAB played Savannah State, and they absolutely drilled them. Old Dominion got beat by Liberty, and we play Liberty the week after next. Is that a concern or a bigger concern you thought, or is it Old Dominion just that bad?
The biggest concern for me, or the biggest surprise for me last week, and I talked to Harry about it Saturday, was the fact that Rice hung in with Houston. At halftime, I think it was tied. So I think Rice is not going to be a pushover by the time we play them. I think that they're going to be a much improved and much better team than we faced last year. So I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park.
The biggest for me was FAU getting spanked so thoroughly by OU. I was really hoping that they would have a better showing than they did, and I realize it's OU and you're playing in Norman, but they don't look like the same FAU team that we played in the championship last year.
No, that's an Oklahoma beating us years ago when we had no team. I'm really surprised at that score too. I really thought I turned that game on because I thought it would be you'd see more out of them.
Oklahoma makes a lot of people look bad. They're going to make a lot of defenses look really, really dumb this year. They've got some of the best. They might have the best, fastest team on paper in college football right now, but they looked lost. Like the they don't have a quarterback right now. After that game, I would say they don't have a really quarterback, and I'm not going to say that bodes well for us because it's so early in the season and they could figure everything out by November and whatever, blah blah blah. But encouraging to see FAU struggle. We didn't think they were going to beat OU, but OU lost to Iowa State last year in Norman, so stranger things can happen. And I bet FAU fans thought they really had a decent chance, but they didn't. That was bad.
There's a couple of games this week that I'm interested in just to know. I think we'll get a better idea of how the conference looks because Florida Atlantic plays Air Force, who won last week. You've got UTSA plays a Baylor, which is probably good timing for them. And with seeing those games, Rice plays Hawaii. I forgot Rice has already played 2 games. They had that kind of weird situation. So I really want to see what FAU has this week. I want to see what UTSA has, other than playing that Arizona team they played, and Minnesota State I'm not too concerned about. But those, I really want to see what they have, because they're in the schedule ahead. And I do want to say this, talking about schedules in the future. If you see it on the board, you see it on Twitter. If anybody starts to pull that UTSA the North Texas could go on. If anybody starts doing that, North Texas could win out. We've got to squash that. It's like pinky promise that anybody that has that.
Squash something weird on the board?
Oh.
No.
Because remember last year that writer wrote about it. UTSA could go the long way, and they ended up just laying and looking like miserable messes. So make sure we squash that and downplay that talk. Just don't get the bad mojo on us there.
I don't know, Evan. I feel like, you know what? Look, can we enjoy this win? Can we shouldn't have to be, you know what I mean?
I've watched the game 3 times, Harry. I'm enjoying this win.
He's not saying anything bad about the game. He's not being pessimistic. He's just being realistic. I mean, you don't want to sit there and say.
I want him to take it week by week, and I want the fans to take it.
It's not like comparing 2014 to this year.
Yeah, I don't want to look past Incarnate Word, but a lot of people are. A lot of people are looking past Incarnate Word at Arkansas, and they're seeing a big matchup there. But we can't look by it. We need to see what we can do against Incarnate Word and make sure that. And I want to see what SMU does this week as well against TCU.
I hope they play well.
Well, what do you know what time that game is? Is there a way you can?
I hope SMU loses every game by 90 points.
Oh my gosh,
that's a little rough.
I mean,
that's a little harsh.
Why? I can't stand SMU.
SMU plays TCU at 6:00, so really those games are going to be going on.
Michigan.
Huh?
Then they go to Michigan. Then they go to the Big House after that. I mean,
they got a rough schedule.
Good.
You know what's funny is the team that seems to be looking the best in Conference USA other than us is Marshall. And we don't play Marshall this year, but I thought that was kind of interesting that they seem to have rebounded, after a few down years for them.
Yeah, I got to pull up their schedule to see what they're doing. But, I mean, we play Florida Atlantic, which we had our trials with them last year. We're going to see what they're doing. We're playing Arkansas. We've really got a great schedule. I mean, this is really a schedule we would have wanted. A couple SMU win. Then you've got two games with Arkansas sandwiched in between, 2 games that we're hoping we should be able to win fairly easily or just win and feel confident about. And then you've got Arkansas, and then you look at the rest of the schedule, and it looks real pretty good as far as good, winnable games. So this is a great start to the season for that.
Yeah, the schedule's as good as it's been in a long time because, honestly, Arkansas is kind of our money game. And there's people that believe we can win that game. So, it's a better schedule than we've seen in the past.
Right. All right, so we're coming up at the end of our time here. I do want to get into Beyond the Green, which will make its 2018 season debut. And there goes Ashton. Sorry, son of a gun. Dude, I'm trying to promote the show, and what do? You walk off and leave me hanging. So, Ashton, tell us what we got this week. Hopefully you found some footage. And I did watch the SMU show where they had 29 minutes of here's how the season's going to go. We're so excited. I can't wait. And then there's 1 minute of game footage with like 2 highlights, and then they go into credits. I'm pretty sure that you're going to have more highlights than that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the show's not on Fox Sports Southwest, so I don't know where we're going to watch it. But, just kidding. It's on Fox Sports Southwest. Just kidding.
What was it, like Fox Central or something?
Fox College Sports. It's always been on Fox College Sports since day one. Anyway, the first episode, we didn't do a preseason episode like we have in the past couple years. So, we're kind of putting a lot of stuff, or I had a lot of options to do for episode 1. So the route I went was, kind of where are we after last year? Where are we after the bowl loss? Another bowl loss? Where are we after a successful season that kind of ended on a sour note? And then what did we do to kind of get to the SMU game, leading up? I mean, I had to cram in, basically an entire 8 months of prep into 5 minutes. So that was kind of challenging because I wanted to devote a lot of time to the SMU game, win or loss, just because it's the first game of the season. We ended up kicking the hell out of them, so that's great. That'll make for a fun show. And so, yeah. But there's a few little wrinkles to this season that I think our fans are going to enjoy, hopefully. Got the access is once again pretty killer. I'm not gonna ever complain about the kind of access I get because they really do take care of me and let me do my thing. And Seth's staff is very welcoming, and I'm excited about the season. There's a lot of cool segments I've got lined up that I think are going to be pretty fun. I really want to try to do. Last year, I think I tried to do let's show you how the turkey's getting cooked, kind of in behind the scenes. Meetings, pregame. And I know a lot of fans like that, but this year I'm also going to do that, maybe a little bit less and a little bit more, getting to know who these players are. So maybe hanging out with players in their off days more, going around campus, getting to know some of these guys. We got a lot of new faces that are going to play prominent roles this year, so I'm going to try to do the best I can to kind of show you who these guys are. And then just kind of, have fun with it and hopefully if we're winning as much as we think we will be, or at least more than losing, then, we'll be able to have fun with wins and get to know some of these guys are.
Are you going to do some stuff? You ought to try to do some stuff on Mason Fine.
Nah, I think I'm gonna stick to our old Preston on board stuff, and I'm gonna stick to the number 3 quarterback. And I think that the number 3 quarterback, he's really, really good, and he's better than the other guys in front of him.
Hey, Ashton. Hey, I got a request. Can we do like a Where Are They Now with DeMarcus Smith?
Oh, yeah. Is there a Walmart nearby, or ooh, that's mean? No, I don't know where DeMarcus is, actually. I've not heard his name since last
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're the only one that ever mentions it.
30 minutes ago.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I love to do Where Are They Now. I am going to do a couple Where Are They Now segments along those lines. There's a couple cool things to have behind the scenes this year that I'm going to try to divulge into. We've got we've got a couple cool things happening this year. Got the Mean Joe thing happening. I'm going to try to get some behind the scenes stuff in that, how that whole thing went down. Indoor practice facility is going to break ground. That's good. We got some people we're going to honor some teams later in the season. So that's going to be fun, and I'm going to try to get some people back for some segments. So, I got a request from somebody on the board to do about a segment, and I don't want to. I think I was really late on getting back to that person because I don't check it that often, so I'm sorry about that. But if anybody's got an idea or something they really really want to see, shoot me a message on the board and just shoot me a direct message and throw something out my way if you've got something that you really want to see. I mean, I definitely want to appease as many of the fans as I can, except the ones that hate me, and try to make the show make the show as enjoyable as possible. But I will ask everybody, if you're listening to the podcast, please, I think we're going to be on Facebook Watch as well this year. I think that's the plan right now. I don't know if that's 100% confirmation, but if we do, share it, do it, anything you can, watch it, get the likes, share everything on social media. All that analytic stuff and those metrics really, really help the show. So do everything you can, not just watching it on Fox Sports Southwest and recording it.
Yeah, Ashton's exactly right. If you enjoy the show, the best thing you can do to help us is to spread the gospel around social media, your friends, all your Facebook friends. Let them know about the show and pass the word around as much as you can.
Yeah, it's just going to help. It's a way for us to tell the school, hey, this is how much fans like that, because there's the Nielsen ratings aren't going to be great. This is a 4:00 time slot on a Thursday. We really need we really need the ratings to be higher, and we really need people to watch the show. And I mean, I'll do everything I can to show everybody a look at the team that they're not going to get, just throughout the season.
All right. Well, with that, we will end the podcast this week. It is it has been a great week because we're coming off that high against SMU, and we've got some good things coming up, and we play Incarnate Word on Saturday. So hopefully everybody make it. Let's hope the weather holds out. I know it's kind of iffy, but with that, we'll end podcast number 194. Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.